Hi everyone, I hope you're having a great day, and I'm so happy you decided to spend part of it with me here at the Velvet Lounge Life. So hi and welcome back. So we're going to continue and finally finalize the buttons that I kept. Thank you so much to the person who suggested I do this, because it resulted in me creating, I don't even know, 5, 6 videos on this subject. So we're just going to get right into it. And also, yes, I'm still answering your questions. So I also kind of, with these videos, created a series of Q&As. So if you had questions about buttons and you wanted some answers, look at the previous videos. And I'm pretty sure I tried to cover the majority of them. We're going to continue a little bit with verdigris, because someone wanted to know, and I talked about verdigris in the last video, but someone also wanted to know, how do you treat verdigris, and how do you know which buttons, or even if it's jewelry or something like that that's made of metal that has the disease, how do you know whether or not you should keep the item or toss it out? I always go with the how much method. If it's, all over the place, you can't save that. That needs to go, because it will just damage all of your other metal items. But if it's just a little spot in a corner, you would have to use a wire brush. And remember, like the button and we're just going to talk button wise. And I just wanted to show you this beautiful shiny center of this shield shaped button. That's why I kept this one. But what you would have to do, so remember, the button is already damaged. So what you would have to do with your little, and it should be a very fine steel button. I'm sorry, brush, not a heavy industrial one like you're clearing rust off of a giant pole or something. This should be something that would be used for fine work. So first of all, is it worth your investment in the tools to try to save your button or not, is a question to ask. And how many of them do you need to save? That's another question to ask. If you have dozens and dozens, it might be worth the investment to get the tools and the materials needed to do this, which really are nominal in cost. But you want a very fine metal brush that you can use to scrape and scrub the verdigris off. Like I said, the button is already damaged because of the verdigris. So you doing this is not going to make it any worse. You're trying to save it so it doesn't completely end up disintegrating. And then you would, scrub it in one direction and then scrub it in the opposite direction, because you want to make sure you get every bit of it off. If you leave even a speck, it will grow. It's sort of like a fungus is a good way to think about it. If you have a bad sandwich you leave in the refrigerator for 1 week and you go and look at it next week, it's going to be in even worse condition. So think of it like that. So you have to get every bit of it off. So going in opposite directions diagonally as well will almost ensure that you get it all off. You can use a jeweler's loop, which is what I do, to look and make sure that you don't see any indication of that green disease on your item. And then what you have to do is use a dry brush. I usually use a soft toothbrush. Obviously, this is for cleaning purposes only. And I will, go over the whole item just to make sure it's dust-free, rust-free, verdigris-free. And then what I do is I use a little bit of olive oil. I'm pretty sure you could use any oil. I just decided to use olive oil. And I just lightly rub, put a couple drops on a cloth, and just using my finger and the cloth wound around it, just, polish the whole thing up. And then what I do is I go back with that soft toothbrush and I, kind of go over the whole thing really well to make sure I didn't leave any dust or particles behind. And then what I will do is use a little bit of turtle wax, just a tiniest bit, or even my husband has this brass and metal cleaner that we would use for his medals and buttons and things when before he retired from military service. And that is another good way to sort of clean it up. You could even use a silver cleaner. Do not use the white one that leaves that white chalkiness behind. Nowadays they have the ones that are like clear, so they leave no residue behind except for the oiliness, which you need to thoroughly wipe off. And then with a dry cloth, I wipe over the entire thing. And then what I do is I put that button, or those buttons, usually I do a bunch at one time, aside. I put them, they can be together if they all have the disease, it's fine. But I put them all aside for several weeks and I observe them. I go back with my loop to look at them to see if the verdigris has come back. If it has, you cannot save that button. If it doesn't come back, leave them alone again for another few weeks and then check them again. And if you see no indication, those buttons are, I'm going to say 85% totally fine. I usually do not put them back in with my collection, or I wouldn't introduce them to my, higher valued collection. I usually end up using them for projects. So that is, and I talked about encapsulating in the previous video, so you can watch that. That's another method where you just accept the fact that this verdigris is there and it's all over the place. It's not going anywhere, but the piece is so beautiful that you can't just let it go, but it does have a second life through encapsulation. So hopefully that is enough on that subject. So here is that geometric shape button that I have. It has an optical illusion. Like you first look at it, you're like, oh, what a cool shape. But then if you turn it or even just twist it the right way, you'll see it's actually a cube with a three-dimensional, sort of design or flair to it. The thing I don't like about this button is if you look at the shank, they actually glued the shank on. This is a button I feel that could have been made with a single molding and didn't require the shank to be applied like, or added like this. But it is what it is. It has gone through the 1970s up until today and survived. I have a few of these and I love them because I love that optical illusion. Illusions are fun. Ooh, here's one that's fun. And I actually have, I feel like I have a couple of these buttons in my collection already. This is what I look at the back of it. This is what the back looks like. One of my favorite shanks. It has, as you can see, the 5 hearts on it. And it's just a really cute brass button. It's just a cutie. So that is another that I decided to keep simply out of the fact that it's cute. Here we have another portrait, type button, but also obviously Art Nouveau, sort of in style, Victorian era, Georgian, maybe even early Georgian. It's an oldie, it's a goodie, it's, what do they call it? The Tudor rose there in the center. So as I said in the previous videos, there are so many reasons why if you're like me and you like the variety of the collection, why you would, keep so many of these buttons. I will have to obviously do a completely separate video to literally not just tell you or give you suggestions on how to store your your buttons, but so that you can actually see how I store my buttons. I don't think I've ever shown that before. So you can see live and upfront and personal how they're stored. These almost remind me of the buttons that would be used in like a teddy bear or something. They sort of have that eye shape. And this is what the back looks like. And this is just pretty. It's blue. It has that pearlescence to it. It probably was part of a nightgown or a house coat, as I used to call them back in the day. And this one is just, I mean, look at it. It's swirly, it's curly. It is made of a hard plastic. So it's probably made by one of the famous plastic button makers back then. This is a cult rock button or a cult button. And there's another one somewhere. Here it is. We also have this one, which is of the same, in my opinion. I mean, it's sort of a berry, I guess you could call it, but it's not really a berry button, but not my favorite when it comes to the cult. I like cult buttons, but I'm just saying that one is not my favorite. Obviously, these were all made for utilitarian reasons. And then a common shape that you will see are cute little terrier dogs. They're the #1 love dog over the ages and the decades. And so this is just a little one that, once again, may have been part of a nightgown, a house coat, a child's garment, which seems really dangerous because it's so small, but different times, different safety standards. And there are a bunch of wee little teeny tiny ones down in here. They are diminutive. And as I told you guys previously, that is one of the areas that I really like as a favorite. And these are made out of a variety of materials. And I'm going to try to pick up as many as I can in one fell swoop so that we're not going over them individually. And you'll see some have holes, some have shanks, except the list goes on, just like with the large buttons. Diminutive buttons have a great variety within themselves. You can see all of the black one is actually metal that's covered with material we haven't spoken about. I've never done a video on, as far as I can recall, a video about buttons that are made out of material before. If that's something that you're interested in, let me know. And I love this little one right here, which is like a 1950s, 1960s design, metal with a swirl. I just love the movement on it. And then we have a variety, once again, of other metal buttons. This one I feel as if I have seen this before, but I'm not sure. It may just be from when I was sorting buttons for you guys in these videos. But I just love this. It's sort of like a muffin top. You can see the 3 little muffs. And then it has this metal frame that goes around the entire button, which is pushed up through the center. And then this frame is secured around the perimeter of it with that, and that frame is secured around the perimeter of it in a scallop design. So that is just a freeform happiness right there. And I wish I had like 20 of these. There are so many things I would use them for. And smooth these, I'm not even going, like some of these, I mean, they're just metal buttons. Yes, they have designs, insignias, logos, etc. on them. Some are military, some are fashion buttons. There's, a few more pearl ones. This is a repeat of one we saw already. This one, I just honestly like the shank on it, which is why I decided to keep it, because, my favorite shank. And I do not keep all of them that have shanks like that. But some of the metal ones I know I can use for different projects, which is why I keep them. One of the probably underappreciated style of buttons is this ball and chain style. There is no chain, obviously, but they would almost, there's no bell inside. They would look almost like bells, like teeny tiny sleigh bells, sort of, not exactly. But this was a easy, inexpensive way at the time to create a button to keep your clothes fastened that was going to stand the test of time. And when the garment wore out, as you can see, some of the garment and the thread is still in this button, you'd be able to take this button, recycle it, and use it for something else. So they were always, back in the day, thinking utilitarian. We need to get back to common sense. Unfortunately, the way things are going, common sense has been completely thrown out of the window, if not into a garbage, because it can't even be recycled. But we can get back there. So if you look at buttons, think about some of that history and how it relates. And here is a gorgeous Waterbury Button Company button. Look at that. You know me, I'm a sucker for the swirl also. It reminds me of that movie Vertigo or something, which I honestly didn't like that much, but it's a gorgeous button. Tippi Hedren, I mean, come on, I like her. But it's a beautiful button, lots of uses for this, but also an excellent version, especially with this mid-century modern sort of optical illusion, spacey design that would be perfect for any collection. And what is this one of? Oh, here's another that's like sort of an Art Nouveau in design, but a silver tone metal for this button. And we have a few more brass buttons here. Look at this one. It's a stunner. And I love how they use the black to highlight the design. Just think about it. You didn't have to do that. Like, you could just have made this just with the brass and people would have been satisfied with that. But whoever the designer was decided to, take it up to the next level. And this is what the back looks like. And I always love when I find that, because I know that this is just not something we're going to ever see again, really, unless someone pays a premium for them to be created. And then this mid-century modern brutalist design. So yes, in the mid-century modern design, there are different categories, and brutalist is one of them. We have a very famous building that's in New Haven, Connecticut, that is of the brutalist design that was just featured nationally. I do love the brutalist design because it's hard, it's edgy, it has an attitude, and I like that. And this is what the back looks like. So you can see the shank. And then we have this cute little button here that you know what's really cool, you guys? Normally I am dropping buttons all over the place, and so far I only dropped one button and it was this one. And this has a cute little dome design on it. It's not as domed as, where is it? There was another one we had earlier that had a sort of a doughboy helmet dome design. Here it is. So you can see this one has like that rim around it. The little one does not. But equally as domed. And then we have the shank right here. And it has sort of a celestial design to it, moon and stars and all of that, which is one of the reasons I kept it as well, because I just thought that was pretty cool. And then we have this one that actually needs to be cleaned simply with a little bit of soap and water. And when I use any soap and water on buttons, it's Dawn dishwashing liquid, diluted, very, very little. I spray it on a cloth like you would do Windex, and I just wipe it gently, and usually the whatever dirt, scum, whatever is on there, it comes right off, and this black will shine right up. Just make sure that you dry everything thoroughly. And the weird thing about this button is the center is mother of pearl. It's made in that space age 1960s design, and sort of like a flying saucer. But the weird thing is the bottom is made of plastic. And this is not an ordinary plastic. I believe this might be a Bakelite, but I haven't tested it. But it looks just like it. It feels just like it. And I've touched millions of buttons in my lifetime probably to know the difference. And this mother of pearl being inset in the center, that is a very unique design. And then we have this last button, which has 8 sides to it, octagonal, and a metal applied back to the center. Once again, a little bit space age in design, so probably 1960s as well. So finally, you guys got to see every single button I decided to keep out of that giant sort. So this is there's a lot of buttons in here, but in the grand scheme of things, this is a fraction in comparison to what I did not keep, which I will show you in just a second. So these are the buttons I decided not to keep. As you can see, there is a variety. These are all mother of pearl buttons. This is full of them. These are a variety of big beauty buttons. They're the ones that are really huge. These have too much verdigris on them, but the buttons themselves are so fancy. And some are from the 1800s that are in here. A few are military, that I'm going to use these in that resin experiment that I told you about, encapsulating in the previous video. And then these are a bunch of metals, of course, as you can see, brasses, metals, whatever. There's some plastic ones in here. There's a few Bakelites in there. These are all just thousands of metal buttons in here. There's some with fabric. There's a little bit of everything. Well, okay, let's be real. There's a lot of everything. Some on cards. A lot of various plastics. Like I said, everything you can imagine from Bakelite to otherwise. And I have gone through all of these a couple of times just to make sure there was nothing I was keeping. And then down below, if I can lift this because it's super heavy, there's a bunch of Waterbury Button Company buttons that I'm also not keeping. That's what all of these are. So as I said, I am definitely not keeping everything. I really want to thank you guys all for watching my video, and I have like one more question and a half to answer. So people wanted to know if I could look at their buttons for them, and other people wanted to know if they could send me buttons. If you want to do that, you can see or find my contact information down in the description of this video. If you look at any of my older videos, you'll find my contact information there as well. And yes, of course, I would love to trade buttons with you, or if you want to send me buttons, I would really appreciate that. And I would even, research them and do a video on them, especially if you're like, what are these? Can you please give me more information? It is hard for me to look at your buttons through a picture in an email sometimes, because I literally sometimes have to touch the button or have it in my hand to figure out what it was made of and look for certain characteristics, like how it's aging, for example. So sometimes, and I would even say half the time, it is almost impossible to look at a button in a picture and know what it is or be able to give you information. So if you have like 12 of that button and you send me one, then I can look at it and give you some information. But in the meantime, yes, you can still try sending, which people have done hundreds of times. Send me an email, send me some clear pictures that are well lit, and I might be able to help you. So I hope that, and that question was from Lorraine Beaver 1919. So hi, Lorraine. I hope that you guys enjoyed the shout outs. I apologize that I couldn't shout out every single person, but I have notes and you will be shouted out in the future at least. And also, please remember to subscribe to the channel, share these videos with other like-minded people, even if they're just into collecting antiques and vintage items. Buttons is a really cool area to get into, And also, if we just hoard the information, what will happen is we won't have future collectors, which will be really sad. And we want to keep this going forever, I hope. And of course, I have other videos regarding other subjects. You could check that out in the playlist, which I will attach to the description of this video. And I hope that you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. I have some more exciting content coming up in regards to storage and a couple projects. There's a lot, you guys. So yes, I am back.